about potentially borrowing equipment or even providing a backup fuel supply. He says right now the city has a week or two of supplies. The Premier says he hopes alternative
putting in place, seem to be implementing. There are a lot of people working 24/7 right now just to ensure that there are no impacts, to do what they need to do to minimize or completely address any potential impacts to the City of Winnipeg. So as of today, I'm feeling good and confident about where we're going. I still don't feel like I know enough. Our team are asking a number of questions of a number of parties. We're still having a lot of discussion, as frequently as we can with the province. Want to ensure that we are in lockstep in terms of how we're approaching this. But yeah, things are good today.
An industry expert says there's no need to panic buy gasoline because of the pipeline shutdown. Dan McTagg runs Gas Wizard. He says while there won't be as much supply, there's no need to rush out and fill up your tank.
No, they shouldn't. I mean, rushing to the pumps would only make a bad situation worse. There's no need to panic here. The companies will provide as much fuel as they need. I mean, what will happen for a gas station, for instance, is rather than receiving, say, 20, 30, 40,000 liters of fuel in one particular delivery, they may wind up with half of that.
New legislation Manitoba's NDP government had hoped to introduce today was delayed when progressive Conservative MLAs rose in the House to raise several matters of privilege. One bill proposes a ban on using replacement workers. Another aims to recognize the Two-Spirit and Transgender Day of Visibility. Both are among the bills that'll have to wait. CBC's Josh Crabb was at the legislature today and joins us now with the details. Josh, I understand several people showed up in anticipation of these bills being introduced?
That's right, Caroline. Dozens of workers and union leaders and members and advocates in the trans community were there in person, hoping to see the government introduce these bills, but they'll have to wait a little longer to see it happen. Labour Minister Malaya Marcelino and Premier Wab Kinew stood in front of workers to announce legislation today, despite not being able to actually introduce it. The NDP previously asked the Manitoba Labour Management Review Committee for advice about implementing a ban on replacement workers, as well as the issue of single-step unionization. The Manitoba Federation of Labour says replacement workers have been used in 7 of the past 8 strikes in the province, and they argue legislation banning replacement workers will help end labour disputes faster. Marcelino points out Quebec and BC already have this legislation, and the federal government has introduced a similar bill. Here's what the minister had to say about business groups who've expressed concern about the legislation.
Our message to business is simple. We all want the same thing, shared prosperity for all Manitobans. And we are a government that will continue to work with both business and labor groups to make sure that we get that goal for all of Manitoba.
Marcelino says details of the bill can't be shared until it's introduced. The minister says there were consultations with business groups and talks are continuing.
Josh, this wasn't the only bill that was impacted today?
That's right. There were several, including a bill by Kirkfield Park MLA Logan Oxenham for Manitoba to commemorate the Two-Spirit and Transgender Day of Visibility on March 31st. Now, several people were also in attendance to see that bill introduced. Oxenham, who is Manitoba's first trans MLA, expressed disappointment it wasn't.
This is a bill that would have said Manitoba sees Two-Spirit and trans people. We see them. We understand that they matter, that they have value. But today, the opposition PCs chose to block that bill from being introduced.
The PCs say members rose on legitimate matters of privilege they allege have interfered with their work as MLAs. They also say the NDP had ample opportunity to present these bills. Last week, there's a deadline for new bills to be introduced by tomorrow, or they could be delayed even further. Caroline.
Thanks, Josh. That's CBC's Josh Crabb reporting from the newsroom. Restorative justice advocates are calling out the NDP for a proposed bill they say will cause more harm than good. They say the bill, which would ban convicted sex offenders and other potential offenders from legally changing their names in Manitoba. They say it will not improve public safety and might even drive offenders away from the programs they need. CBC's Brittany Greenslade has more.
I am pleased to introduce Bill 23. The Manitoba government says it doesn't want convicted sex offenders to be able to hide behind a new identity and are proposing a bill banning them from being able to legally change their name.
To keep Manitobans safe, we're ensuring that Manitoba does not become a haven for offenders to live in order to change their name.
But advocates who work with rehabilitated offenders call it a step back for restorative justice.
This would mean then that we want to label and stigmatize people, and we want to keep them in that place for the rest of their lives.
Community Justice Initiative says further punishing someone doesn't equate to holding them responsible and isn't the deterrent many think it is.
Real accountability is accepting responsibility for what you've done, coming to terms with the true impact of the harm that you've caused, and doing things in the interest of making that right.
There are more than 3,200 registered sex offenders in Manitoba. 2/3 are linked to child sex crimes. Approximately 150 people are added to the registry in Manitoba each year. In the past 3 years, only 4 have changed their name. They must provide a name, address, passport, and other details to RCMP yearly. Any changes must be reported within 7 days. Former names remain in the database.
They're already being held accountable in a way that we often don't for other types of crimes.
The Criminal Defense Lawyers Association of Manitoba questions the motive behind the bill.
What is the end goal? Is it to keep society safer, or is it to stigmatize people who have already paid their debt to society or prevent them from escaping that stigma? I don't know what that's helping.
Groups that work to reintegrate convicts into society say the best way to stop them from reoffending is keeping them connected.
One of the most important criteria for successful reintegration is to allow these individuals to, get re-involved with their families, get employment.
They say the province should be focusing on wraparound supports for people when they get out of jail instead of this proposed legislation.
I would rather know that the individual is out there being worked with, being supervised in a program like ours, rather than going underground and basically just disappearing.
Alberta and Saskatchewan are the only 2 provinces with similar legislation in place, although it's being proposed in Ontario and Newfoundland as well. Brittany Greenslade, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A 34-year-old Ontario man is facing human smuggling charges after being arrested by the Morden Police Service. Officers picked up the man just before midnight last Monday during a traffic stop in Morden. At the time, he had 5 passengers in his vehicle who were all arrested under the Customs Act. Police allege they were going to attempt crossing into the United States. 4 of the passengers were in their 20s and 1 was 58 years old. All were dressed for the weather. The death of a man who was found unconscious in Winnipeg's William White neighbourhood on Saturday is being investigated as a homicide. Police say they got a call about someone in distress shortly before 3 that afternoon. When they responded to a home on Manitoba Avenue between Charles and Salter Streets, they found an unconscious man. He was taken to hospital in critical condition, where he was later pronounced dead. The victim has been identified as 35-year-old Robert Clayton Smith. You won't know where and you won't know when, but Winnipeg police say they'll be out during spring break to catch people shoplifting. Officers are heading back into malls and stores to curb an increase in retail theft. During the winter holidays, police conducted a similar initiative. 138 people were arrested and shoplifting dropped by 14% from November through December. Inspector Max Waddell says shoplifting is more than a monetary loss for the businesses.
Retail theft is driving much of the violent crime you're seeing in the city today. When criminals steal goods from stores, they are turning the goods into cash. That's done in the underground market, that's done in the black market. And when they convert the property to cash, they are then often buying illicit drugs, potentially weapons, and in extreme cases are buying firearms.
Waddell says in some cases they're also buying, as he said, firearms. He says during Project Falcon, which saw an increased police presence around Polo Park, police made more than 300 arrests. Almost a month after the downtown Winnipeg Transit Community Safety Team started, officers say they're making progress. CBC's Sabina Ahmed reports.
Decked out in yellow uniforms, labeled safety officer on the back. The Winnipeg Transit Community Safety Team hit the streets a month ago. The team's leader says it has made an impact.
We've dealt with many, like dozens, what would you say, guys, maybe 100 disturbances of various types. Saved a couple of lives. We're interfacing with the community, drawing in partner agencies, wrapping around support for people that we're coming across who are unsheltered in Winnipeg streets.
That includes giving someone CPR and naloxone. The team, which includes 21 officers and 2 supervisors, was created because of growing concerns about violence on Winnipeg Transit.
And one thing that's quickly evolved that we're learning already is that we have the capacity to provide safe rides for people to other shelters and resources.
Safety Officer Supervisor Christine Welsh says they respond to about 15 to 20 incidents a day.
Our safety officers are actually saying that they're seeing riders relaxed and, on their phones and stuff, as opposed to, feeling, looking over their shoulders and being on alert. And people are actually approaching them and telling them that they feel safer.
Safety Officer Supervisor Sean Berman says they're also taking a significant number of calls off the transit inspector's hands.
So I know that there's a lot of active collaboration between us and transit, and if ever there's if there's a situation where transit just isn't able to attend to a call, or if they're running short staff, we're able to fill in and pick up where they leave off.
At present, the routes being patrolled by the safety officers are on bus routes in and around downtown. That includes officers on foot, on buses, and in marked vehicles. Christmas says he now plans to extend these services beyond downtown. Zubina Ahmed, CBC News, Winnipeg.
First-time fishers and new Canadians tried their hand at ice fishing over the weekend. A free event was hosted by Fort White Alive and the Manitoba Wildlife Federation, as well as Cabela's. Gear and tents were set up for anyone to try to catch and release a fish. Master anglers also shared tips and led workshops throughout the day.
Fantastic. We're having great fun so far. Are we? It's first time for me as well.
Yeah? How are you liking it?
Good. It's a fantastic day to be out and about in the nature and trying something new as a family. Yeah.
Have you caught a fish yet?
Not yet. We just
not
yet. Soon, hopefully. Yeah.
I think it's exciting, and the ice and the fishing. I think it's very nice. Yeah.
Lift it up. Oh, it's got a minnow inside.
How do you like it so far?
It's amazing.
Yeah. What's their favorite part?
Catching the fish.
Oh, how many have you caught today?
6 or 7.
6 or 7. That's very impressive.
We kind of lost count.
Together.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the real fish?
Mostly perch. We got a pike on, but we lost it right at the hole.
Yeah, because it got stuck on the bottom of the hole.
Well, we've seen 2 species caught so far, northern pike, commonly called jackfish, and yellow perch. Those are the 2 most common caught here. There is walleye here, but none have been caught today so far. And by sampling these fish, it's going to be a start. The information we get will be used for further planning.
What sort of fish is it?
Okay. Oh wait, there's a minnow in there still.
And CBC weather specialist Riley Lachuk joins us now with a first look at weather. Riley, first of all, I can't believe people were on the ice. I know it's still cold outside, but I would be so worried about it crashing underneath me.
I guess a good important safety reminder, especially as we head into spring tomorrow, although we're not typically going to see spring-like weather tomorrow. Check the ice before you head out anytime, because you have to remember there's a moving body of water under there still.
Sorry, how do you check it? Like stomp your feet?
Well, you can take a ruler, you can cut a hole in it and see how thick the ice is.
Okay.
Yeah, check the ice before you head out. Always a good idea. We are going to see some colder conditions, which will make some of that ice formation happen through the overnight hours. as I alluded to, Caroline, not typical spring-like temperatures in our forecast.
You're not the best today.
Which we'll get to right now. I have a picture I want to show you first. This is a group of deer chilling in Charleswood. If you count them, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and a 9th one right here. Thank you so much to Bev for sending us this picture over the weekend. Isn't this cute? And kind of a sign of spring when you start to see the wildlife out there. So I love it. Talk back at cbc.ca if you want to send us a picture of your wildlife or your pets or anything like that. So we have a couple of watches and warnings. Still a blizzard warning in place for Churchill. The rest of the Hudson Bay Coast under a snowfall warning. Snow continuing as we head into the overnight hours. It will start to taper off. By the time we get into Tuesday, 10 to 15 centimeters on the ground, but coupling that with winds gusting up to 70 or 80 kilometers an hour out of the northwest, that is really going to reduce visibility along the coastline, whether you're heading into the area by air or by another means, by train maybe. It could be kind of dicey, even for local travel as we head into the day tomorrow. So mainly sunny skies in southern Manitoba. We've seen some of that cloud clear out, still seeing some of that snow along the Hudson Bay coast. That moves out as we get into the day on Tuesday. Behind that, northwesterly winds pick up in southern Manitoba, along with some scattered flurries. So don't be surprised, really, across southern Manitoba, if you see a snowflake or two, maybe some scattered flurries throughout the day. Even into the later afternoon, partly cloudy skies. We are seeing the rest of that snow moving out into northwestern Ontario. Behind that, a ridge of high pressure builds in. Two things to note with that. First, much sunnier conditions as we head into the day on Wednesday, but that also means much cooler conditions as well. So as we head into the first full day of spring, we are going to see considerably colder conditions and below seasonal for this time of the year. And you'll see why as we take this out hour by hour, starting Wednesday or Tuesday, I should say first, around -5 in southern Manitoba, but you can see this pocket of colder air starting to sink a little further to the south as we get into the day on Wednesday, starting in the mid-teens. Temperatures that I don't think we've seen here in southern Manitoba for quite some time. Winds will be a bit of a factor tomorrow as well, out of the northwest, gusting to 40 as we start the day. Even some higher gusts throughout the morning and into the afternoon, really province-wide. So yeah, we're looking at some windier conditions tomorrow, dying off as we get into the day on Wednesday. For northern Manitoba, another 5 to 10 centimeters yet along the Hudson Bay coast. Right now, 6 degrees in Winnipeg, winds gusting to 40 out of the southwest right now. We'll start to see the winds tapering off a little bit as we get into the evening, down to -6 overnight with some scattered flurries. That continues in the morning, and we wake up to -6 and really not budging temperature-wise through the day tomorrow. Northwest winds gusting to 50, high of -8 on Wednesday, -5 on Thursday, and that's kind of what we get for the rest of the work week, Caroline. Temperatures below seasonal for this time of the year.
That blows, Riley.
Sorry.
I can't say I'm loving the first week of spring this week. Am I even allowed to say that on the air? I don't know.
Hey, I like sunshine. Sunshine's nice.
All right. Thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
We'll see you in a bit. Most video rental stores like Blockbuster are a thing of the past, and fewer big box stores are selling DVDs. Soon, a Transcona business will follow suit, just as it celebrates its 40th year. Video King is closing its doors, selling off everything from candy machines to DVD racks. Owner Glenn Fuel took over the store in 1988 and has seen many big changes in the industry, like the fall of Betamax and the rise of Blu-rays and the shift to streaming services. CBC community reporter Shanley Vidal and videographer Jason Empson stopped by the store on Day Street to find out more about Video King's legacy.
I've had customers staying here waiting since 9:30 in the morning till noon, waiting for us to open. Okay, come on in. They've been coming into the store on a weekly basis, getting their movies. I'm Glenn Fuel, and I own Video King, which has been in business for 40 years as of March 1st.
My favorite movie is Toy Story.
I love horror movies.
I love all things movies.
I love movies, yeah.
I like the movie The Holiday. The reason I like it is because the actual movie brings back the memories of them walking through a Blockbuster store and they're looking at the movies in the movie. What's interesting is it's never changed. They come and they talk, and you'll hear one say, oh, that's a really good movie, and then the next one say, oh, that's a bad movie. And, you know, again, it's all about preference, right?
That one needs pricing still.
We announced on March 1st that we're closing. It was a hard decision. It wasn't a decision that was made in a day. I can tell you that it's been probably prolonged into about a year of making the main decision. Back in pre-COVID, our biggest issue was the studios making movies, and COVID was shut down the studios, so we were basically in a hold position. And again, I financially could absorb that hold position for a while, which I did. And then we went into the studios, I call it as Hollywood went on strike. And that then created no movies again for us. So then, you know, we've had two things that went against us, and it just was bad for the business. We couldn't retain the status quo, so their decision had to be made. So my goal here is to have everything sold out and done. My last day of retail is April 6th.
What was the reaction when you told customers that you were closing down?
Well, very disappointing for the regulars because they just don't know where to go next. You know, there may be a couple independent stores around, but they're not just doing movies, they're doing ice cream, they're doing convenience store items to survive, because you can't do it just on video anymore, and that's why everybody's closing down. You know, you got the big stores now, Best Buy's out of it, Walmart, I heard, you know, a good portion of their stores aren't going to be carrying it next year, so things are changing.
It was all sad because it's such a fun place to find everything that you've been looking for that, you know, you aren't able to find previously.
It's disappointing. It does kind of feel like the old blockbuster movies where you could come and rent. So it's disappointing that it's closing.
I especially love the physical media, so I love coming here just to buy it and know that I have it with me. I've been coming here for a few years now, so it's sad to see it go.
Yeah, it hurts, but you can't change it. The facts are the facts. You know, I'll use an example. I've got two daughters. I got one daughter that loves the physical, but I got the other daughter that says, no, Dad, I don't want anything. I'm online. I do it all online. As one couple tells me, it's their date out. You know, they come here every weekend just to have a date out, and they can still reminisce how they used to go to the big stores, the big video stores, and now they still have here to come, but they're going to miss it, they told me. Did you find everything you wanted?
Yes, I did.
Okay, great. $5.60? Here's your receipt for that. Thank you.
Israeli forces have staged another raid on the largest hospital in Gaza. The military says it had proof Hamas had regrouped there, and we'll have more on a UN report about Gaza being on the brink of famine. That's coming up after the break. Israeli forces have staged another raid on the largest hospital in Gaza. The military says it had concrete proof Hamas had regrouped there. The raid was launched early in the morning and gunfire could be heard well into the day. The Israeli military released video, it says, shows Hamas fighters attacking Israeli troops near the hospital. Israel says it made 80 arrests and killed 20 members of Hamas, including a senior commander. One Israeli soldier is reported to have been killed. The Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry also reported several deaths. Thousands of Palestinians have taken refuge at Al-Shifa Hospital since fighting erupted early October. A UN-backed report says northern Gaza is in the brink of a famine, with 70% of people there facing catastrophic hunger.
Time is of the essence. These people are starving, children are dying. When famine happens, people have already starved, children are already wasted, and many, many, many lives are already lost. So let's act before a full-fledged famine is confirmed.
The International Food Insecurity Watchdog estimates northern part of the territory will see famine between now and May. It says nearly everyone in Gaza is struggling to get enough food. A top EU diplomat has called the starvation in Gaza entirely man-made. Many aid groups have warned that the current deliveries by air and sea are too small and too slow. The report says it could be avoided if Israel and Hamas agree to an immediate truce and allow the unimpeded flow of aid. The international community has stepped up its efforts to get desperately needed aid into Gaza. Over the weekend, more than 200 tons of relief supplies arrived by sea. And for the past several weeks, a number of countries have been airdropping humanitarian aid into the territory. CBC News chief correspondent Adrian Arsenault got Canadian exclusive access to one of those flights carried out by the Jordanian military.
For a sense of scale of what's been done to Gaza, sometimes you need to go up. This is the view of the crushed communities of northern Gaza, 3,000 feet above them. It's the view from one of two Jordanian C-130s dropping donated aid. They'd prefer there was more, prefer to be able to drop it with some sort of precision. Frankly, prefer to not have to do this at all.
You hear people talk about how inefficient and expensive airdrops are. Well, consider this, for this whole plane, there are just 16 pallets of aid, a few hundred kilos each one. All of this was delivered on a single truck to this airfield.
Canada, by the way, is one of the countries donating parachutes for these drops, but for which planes, on which days, it's unclear. Striking that until a few weeks ago, any airdrops were considered exceedingly rare and only for places where access by any other means simply wasn't possible. Now, this has become almost a routine. At least from the perspective of the crew. Back down in the catastrophe that is Gaza, where and how the aid lands, who gets a hold of it, what possible differences this little makes in the face of hunger, this is urgent and worrying.
So in the next few days on The National, we'll get you a look of the daring details of some of these flights, but also the extraordinary lengths other countries in the region, like this one, Qatar, are going to help evacuate the wounded from Gaza. We'll be aboard a flying hospital, if you will. So getting aid in, getting people out is dangerous work, and it's ramping up. And all here know time is not on their side.
That was CBC News chief correspondent Adrian Arsenault reporting from Doha, Qatar. Adrian is hosting The National from the region this week, and she's going to have a full-length report from on board that Jordanian aid flight tonight. You can watch it on The National at 10 p.m. on CBC TV. Leaders of the federal parties rose in the House of Commons today to commemorate the life and legacy of former Prime Minister Brian Mulroney.
He loved this country with his whole heart, and he knew we were capable of great things. It is not just his booming baritone that will forever echo in this chamber, but his values and his leadership.
If the Irish son of a working-class electrician from a mill town can rise to become Prime Minister, then in this country, Anyone from anywhere can do anything.
Mulroney died February 29th at the age of 84. He will lie in state tomorrow and Wednesday in Ottawa near Parliament Hill. Mulroney's casket will travel to Montreal ahead of the state funeral there on Saturday. 3 of Brian Mulroney's 4 children were in the House of Commons. Here's some of what they said after hearing the tributes from MPs.
We obviously understand what drew him here, but what also he loved about it. And for us, sitting up in the gallery and hearing everybody speak so positively, probably not what he was used to, but he would have loved it, and we did as well.
We're truly honored from all of the people across the country and internationally that have taken the time to reach out to say nice things and words of support.
Many motorists might be considering switching from gas-powered to electric cars, but will it save you any money? A new study suggests it depends on where you live and how much you drive. We'll explain after the break. Most Canadians see a shift to electric from gas-powered vehicles as better for the environment. But the cost benefits of buying an EV against the savings in fuel isn't as clear. Now a new study shows that where you live and how much you drive play a big role. Lindsay Duncombe has more.
With 3 kids, a house in the suburbs and a job in the city, Bassam Javed drives a lot.
I drive at least 100 kilometers a day.
He wanted to find out if buying an electric vehicle would save him money, higher upfront cost, but no more gas bills.
And then I figured that, this is actually something that would be interesting for more people than just me.
Because he's a PhD candidate and lecturer at UBC, Javed turned his personal dilemma into a study, comparing the total cost of owning and operating an electric vehicle with its gas counterpart.
There's a lot of factors that go into it. Electricity prices, gasoline prices, the amount of rebates.
What he found was the cost calculation of owning an EV varies dramatically, depending on where you live in Canada and how much you drive. Costs are lowest in Quebec because it has the highest subsidies and cheapest electricity. EV drivers there would have to drive an average of 46 kilometers a day for 7 years to break even, compared to a gas car. BC comes in second with 64 kilometers daily. Ontario, 88 kilometers. And up north, owning an EV doesn't make much sense. To break even, drivers in Nunavut would have to average 181 kilometers.
And so there's actually a big urban-rural gap in the problems that arise when you transition to an electric vehicle.
This economist says policies to promote electric vehicles need to take geography into account.
And that's the one we're looking at right there.
Cost isn't the only factor for shoppers like Christian Sloan.
Definitely the green aspect holds weight as well. It's nice to be shaking it up and doing your part to change the game a little bit.
As for Javed, after all that research, he drives an electric plug-in hybrid.
If you're driving a lot, and depending on where you live in Canada, it can make a lot of sense.
For the amount of time he spends on the road, he figures he'll save money eventually. Lindsay Duncombe, CBC News, Vancouver.
And CBC weather specialist Riley Lachuk joins us now for more talk of weather. I got to say, looking at your forecast in the last block, it feels more like fall heading into winter than it does spring into summer.
Your dog might need the booties.
Oh,
first thing in the morning. Yeah, we're looking at some very cold morning temperatures, Caroline. And you know what? I've prepared a dog walking forecast just for
me?
you. Yeah.
Yes.
Here we go. Yeah, don't you like my little animated puppy? Yeah,
I love it.
I have a picture of Bjorn to show you as well. I know that his people are watching too. So, Bjorn might need the booties too, because we're looking at some pretty chilly morning temperatures. Tomorrow morning, not so much. We're looking at a start about -6 with some scattered flurries in southern Manitoba continuing through the day. Otherwise, we're looking at a mix of sun and cloud and temperatures right around -5. Here's where we got to today. Temperatures above seasonal again in southern Manitoba, up to 10 in Morden-Winkler, 6 in Winnipeg, 5 in Steinbach. But as I alluded to, as we head into spring, which starts tomorrow just after 10 p.m. our time, things are changing. So we see as that area of low pressure moves out, ridge of high pressure builds in, and that allows some of that cold Arctic air to really sink down, not only in the prairies, but way down into southern Ontario and even to parts of southern Quebec, looking at some pretty chilly temperatures as we head through the weekend. Really not a reprieve. Even as we head through the weekend here, we're seeing that cold air really stuck here on the prairie. So we're looking at some chilly temperatures ahead. So right now 6 at the airport, 7 in Eli, 6 at the Forks as well. Temperatures really across southern Manitoba around 5 degrees or higher, 9 degrees in Swan River, and a bit cooler in parts of northern Manitoba where we're starting to see some of that cold air start to move south as that area of low pressure moves out. So right now 1 degree in Flin Flon, but -14 in Churchill. Your forecast tonight, we're looking at some snow continuing through northeastern Manitoba. Slim chance of some lingering flurries through Thompson and Norway House. Even some scattered flurries at the overnight period through southern Manitoba. Timing out the day on Tuesday, Looking at clearing skies as we head through the afternoon. By the time we hit noon, most of the snow has pushed off into northwestern Ontario, but gusty northwest winds up to 70 along the Hudson Bay coast. As we get into the afternoon, temperatures really continue to fall to around -12, -13 in Flin Flon and the Pas. Scattered flurries, really the story of tomorrow, along with the winds in southern Manitoba. Sunnier skies through the afternoon, temperatures around -4, -5, but we see temperatures start to dip, Caroline, as we get later into the day. A little bit more cloud than sun through northwestern Ontario, but we will see more sunshine as we get into the day on Wednesday.
Okay. Thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
It'll come as no surprise looking at these scenes that it's officially peak bloom for the cherry blossoms lining the National Mall in Washington. This is the second earliest that's happened, following one of the warmest winters ever recorded. Peak bloom is defined as when 70% of the cherry trees are flowering. The blooms usually last for several days, depending on the weather. We'll be back after the break. Don't you hate it when your tech devices from different brands don't work together? Turns out farmers are feeling the same way about some of the high-tech farming equipment. After the break, we'll have more on what the federal government plans to do about it. Consumers and businesses have long complained about devices and equipment that don't work together across different brands. It's particularly noticeable in the tech industry, and it's spreading. The federal government has noticed it too, and new legislation is in the works to change that. CBC's Paula Duhatschek explains.
For farmers like Chris Allam, it's normal to mix and match equipment. A tractor from one brand and a seeder from another. But he says this isn't always as easy as it once was.
It's harder and harder to get things to work together, so the farmer, out of frustration, will end up spending more money just buying two things that are the same brand, so they work together.
Problems with interoperability are usually associated with Silicon Valley. Think of how Apple, for years, didn't use the USB cable for its iPhones, forcing customers to buy a Lightning cable instead. The practice is spreading to other industries. Some farm equipment comes equipped with digital locks, technology that prevents farmers from using other brands' attachments.
The impact on our business today is measurable. It's becoming more and more prevalent every day and every year as we come out with the new makes and models.
Right now, manufacturers can't bypass those digital locks without the risk of violating the Copyright Act. But a bill working its way through the Senate aims to change that.
The right to innovate is what we call this bill. So we want people to have the confidence that if they want to build a specific product for a specific purpose, that they can still use the big company's platform.
The bill is being cheered by right-to-repair advocates who see this as part of a broader issue, companies controlling what customers do with their products.
Can you fix the thing that you own? Can you buy products that interoperate with the thing that you own? These are fundamental freedoms.
Still, manufacturers say the bill won't fully solve the problem. They say all farm equipment should be interoperable to begin with in order to be sold in Canada. Paula Duhatschek, CBC News, Calgary.
An Ontario business owner says she's being penalized for bringing manufacturing home to Canada. Border officials hit her company with tens of thousands of dollars in surprise tariffs. Senior business reporter Anis Hadari has the details.
This all started when a Markham, Ontario-based company selling couches for kids decided it wanted to make them in Canada instead of in China. Barumba Play makes furniture that kids can disassemble and reassemble into forts. Everything used to be made in China and was imported without tariffs, a type of tax, because it's a children's toy. After manufacturing came back to Canada, the one thing they couldn't get made here was the slip covers for the couches. At first, they were able to bring those in from China without being taxed because it was still considered part of a children's toy. But then the Canada Border Services Agency changed its tune.
I received a letter from the CBSA saying, actually, it's not a toy, it's fabric, and we're going to group you in with carpets, bed linens, and table linens. And we want you to pay an 18% duty, not just going forward, but retroactive for the last couple years. And by the way, if you don't like it, you can file an appeal, but you have to pay us all the money first.
That money is estimated by the owners to be anywhere between $50,000 to $70,000. Money the business would prefer to hang on to while it appeals this decision. But unfortunately, while personal income tax collection can be suspended in some cases, that's not possible with tariffs like this.
If you don't pay it, they will go after you, even if you're launching an appeal. I've had clients with $1 million plus assessments, wrong assessments, have to go out of business because they can't pay it. And by the time the appeal process runs its course, which is going to take time, they can't manage it.
The CBSA refused interview requests about this subject and didn't provide a written statement either. Barumba Play says the company got legal advice and is fighting these extra charges. But the owner also says she feels penalized for bringing her manufacturing back to Canada. Anis Hadari, CBC News, Calgary.
Montreal is seeing an influx of wild turkeys roaming the streets. It's amusing, but there have been some frightening encounters. Sarah Levitt explains why the birds are there and what can be done about it.
The interaction delighted onlookers, but clearly terrified the man. A wild turkey, angry and territorial. Then there's this one, strutting his stuff to show off his dominance. What was once a rare sight, turkey encounters are becoming more and more frequent around Montreal.
They've been increasing in urban areas because there's a lot more food here and it's a bit of a safe place from predators. We have milder and milder winters. We have less and less die-off naturally occurring.
An increasing number of Quebec towns are issuing recommendations on how to live peacefully with the fowls.
Try and not approach them. If they do approach you, you want to make some noise and feed them off, pretty much. Other than that, just watch your bird feeders.
Not recommended is taking matters into your own hands. Remember this turkey? Well, the mayor of the town enlisted the help of a resident to take down the turkey with a slingshot. Like David and Goliath, the mayor said, the turkey was killed. This saved as a souvenir. It was illegal, but no charges have been laid yet.
The takeaway from all of this is we need to learn how to adapt to wildlife, particularly new wildlife that's just simply expanding its range.
In some cases, though, that range pushes the limit. Hey, the bus driver says it costs $3.50 to take the bus. The fare skipping, though, doesn't seem to ruffle its feathers. Sarah Levitt, CBC News, Montreal.
Still ahead, Riley Lachuk is back with a last look at the windy forecast. You're watching CBC News Winnipeg.
Here's a look at your cross-Canada forecast for your Tuesday. Some warmer conditions. We've even seen some records over the last few days broken on the west coast. Vancouver getting to a high of 13 tomorrow. Even as far north as Yukon Territory, seeing some record-breaking temperatures over the weekend. Alberta, Edmonton and Calgary both looking at cloudy skies for tomorrow. The temperatures cool off the further east you go, on the prairie provinces at least. Chance of some scattered flurries in the morning for Churchill at minus 19 degrees. Single digits, maybe some flurries through Toronto, Ottawa, and some more winter-like weather for the Maritime provinces, 3 degrees tomorrow in St. John's. Your day planner for tomorrow, scattered flurries in the morning. Winds pick up as we head into the afternoon tomorrow. Temperature not really budging from around that -5 mark for the Winnipeg region. Looking at your 7-day forecast, we do have more sunny conditions as we head into spring, Caroline. -6 for Friday. Clouds build in for Sunday and maybe some flurries on Monday. Well, when you think of the Namibian deserts, snowboarding is maybe, Caroline, not the first thing that comes to mind.
Nope. Let's call this a distant cousin to the Canadian winter sport. Here's your daily lift. Sandboarding is making a comeback in this desert town in West Namibia after a lull during the pandemic. But the open desert and rolling dunes also attract other extreme sports like quad bike rides.
This seaside resort is seeing a boom in tourism in recent months. There's been a major increase in visitors as many ships go around the African continent to avoid the Red Sea. Sandboarding, I feel like that is something that you could excel at.
That I could excel at?
Yes.
Why do you think I could accept? Because I'm an Arab? Because I could sandboard? Actually, I do know how to snowboard. I'm not very good at it.
You're good at anything you try.
Oh,
That's why I
you're
say
too nice. So not true. I can't even really ride a bike. I definitely can't skate. But whatever. See you tomorrow.